What's happening, guys? So I wanted to talk about a specific topic that's been kind of rolling around in my head since I started driving. I'm driving to Charlottesville right now. Don't worry, I keeping my eyes on the road, so don't worry about me. But it's something that I was thinking about a lot on the drive, and I just really want to get it out, really before I forget, because I'm just kind of on this train of thought right now. And the topic is about basically body image and men. And that is in fact a thing in our society. Now, I'll begin this with an anecdote. Now, this video is also partially why I started, but it ties in with body image especially. So, here's my story, if anyone cares. So I started taking fitness seriously around 2.5 years ago now. This was around April of 2013. And at this point, I was coming off a back injury and I had gained a lot of weight. I was lifting before this, not really properly, but I was still in the gym, and I was eating like, a monster. I was eating burgers, fries, I was eating any sort of like typical college student diet, I suppose. Going to the dining halls, just going ham every single time. And then after I injured my back and I was out of the gym, I kept eating that way, and eventually I just ballooned up to 190 pounds. Now, I didn't realize how bad I was until I got some comments from some other people, and especially my parents. And this literally just triggered something in my mind where I said, fuck it, I'm just gonna lose all this weight and just get shredded down and whatever. Now, here's the thing to consider. I started this kind of in a negative mindset, in the fact that I wanted to lose this weight because it was kind of like a prove the haters wrong kind of thing. I wanted to lose it to show other people that I lost it, if that makes any sense. And I think most people, that's where they start. They start off by saying, I want to want to display to the world that I did this, because they really are trying to hold themselves to a standard that society holds. You hear this all the time in the media for women. Women have the body image or the body image standard of being skinny or whatever, the freaking thigh gap. But a topic that's, the same thing, the mirror image of that same thing, occurs a lot in guys. And that's this body image standard, or really the body image, I guess, ideal that every guy thinks that they should have. And that's like that shredded Greek god look that every guy wants, but it's just gotten really popular over the last few years, or the last couple decades, and everyone wants that, And it's the same thing, you look at a G.I. Joe or a action figure, they have these impossible physiques, and then guys want to achieve that as well. And so for those who try, they try to achieve that. And I'm not gonna lie, when I first started, I was in that exact mindset. I wanted to get the six-pack, I wanted to get bulging shoulders and arms and a chest and just look like a Greek god or a freaking action figure. I want to look like Superman, And something that I don't mention really to anyone, but I'm mentioning it now because I think it's an important thing to consider, is that when I did this, when I first started, it was not for really myself. If it was for myself, it was because I just hated the way I looked and the way I was, and that's why I did this drastic 180. And the problem is, that took me in the wrong direction. I took it way, way too extreme, and I don't recommend anyone takes it to this extreme. I took it to the low-carb approach. I did a shit ton of cardio. I pretty much lost a good amount of my muscle that way, and I was obsessed. I was obsessed with my scale weight and the way I looked in the mirror, and it consumed me, you know. And people look at me, you know, at least back then, and they were like, "Oh man, we really admire your dedication, whatnot." And you know, it kind of got to my head. I'm not gonna like lie about it. It got to my head. It fed my ego in a certain way, and it became like this sort of like narcissistic, like really negative mindset where I was just trying to achieve this ideal for myself. But here's the key. Here's the reason I wanted to do it. I started off in that prove the haters wrong mindset where I wanted to show the world what I did. And, you know, everyone who's friends with me knows, like, I posted a good amount of social media about this. And it was just a really unhealthy mindset. It was just way too extreme. It was like it wasn't even dedication. It was obsession. It was compulsion. You know, it just was just a really bad mindset to have. And this really kind of dragged me down mentally, and it kept me from having a lot of fun that I could have had. And it kind of turned into like a spiral thing, or sort of, I guess, like a yo-yo kind of effect where, you know, I'd shred down, not really get to where I want to be, obsessed with that for about a few months, kind of give up, and then like I would start the process over again. And honestly, I think it might have been like in the last half a year where I really started to think about why I do this. And this is something that I actually, for a good while, I would wrestle with when I wake up early in the morning before I go to work. Like, why do I live? Why do I, guess, conscript myself to this lifestyle? And so this is what I've learned. You should never get into something like this because you are trying to assign yourself to some sort of body image standard that society holds for you. That's one thing, right? You guys should not feel that they need to be like a Greek god physique, and girls should not feel like they need to be like super skinny or whatever. But that is only to an extent. Now, obviously, a response to this like whole body image standard thing is like every body is beautiful, like every body is beautiful. And to some extent, yes, people should be happy with the way they are. But my opinion about this is that you should only hold it to the extent of health. Now, I don't think being overweight is healthy. I don't think being obese, especially, is healthy. And people should respect their bodies and the fact that you should not let it go to shit. Right? This does not mean you have to go to the gym every single day. It means taking basic care of yourself and taking care of your health, and not to glorify something that is inherently unhealthy. Being happy with yourself in a healthy way, right? Now, the problem with this is, like, especially with the mindset of being, like, obsessed with scale weight or obsessed with the way you look, you can't tell someone, like, if you told me, you can't tell someone to stop worrying about how much you wear, stop worrying about what you look like, because that's just not going to work. It's something that's in your mind. It's a mental and psychological struggle that it just honestly takes a lot of time to get over. And, you know, for me especially, like, one of the things I love most in life is to eat different foods, to eat different foods with people. And some people are not the same, but I know a lot of people are the same as me. You know, a lot of people like to eat and eat with friends, and it's a social thing, and it's a lot of fun, and it just makes me happy. Now, when you're like that, there are, I guess, trade-offs with this. A person who really likes to eat, and like that makes them happy, they have to understand the fact that when you eat like that, and you eat with reckless abandon, like, there will be a side effect to that. And for me, I've kind of chosen a middle-of-the-road approach where I take fitness very seriously, I take lifting very seriously, but I balance it with eating what I like. I don't do it all the time, but I do it just enough to make me happy and just for me to enjoy life. Now, on the flip side of this, I mean, if you ask me the reason I live, the reason I have to tell myself every single day just to keep myself going, it's not like a deal with the haters kind of mindset. It's not projecting it out to the world. It's something that is really internal, and it's honestly something that everybody just has to learn for themselves at some point or another. And for some different people, it takes time. For me, it took a very, very long time. You know, I grew up fat, not like super overweight, obese, but I was in the overweight category, and like in a bad way. I ate very unhealthy. I was not an athlete. I was never really an athlete. I lived in high school, but I was never considered an athlete. I always had friends and family, including my parents, who just, you know, they always like kind of poked fun about how I was fat, and it kind of just sticks with you, right? And I don't think I'll ever go a day where I don't sometimes struggle with that kind of like former fat boy syndrome. But I guess wrapping up this long-winded video, the reason I lift, the reason I'm into fitness, the reason why really anyone should be into fitness is not because you hate your body, but because you love your body. Because you want to see how far it can go in terms of its healthy limits. Don't push it like too far. Don't push it to the point where you're about to die. But see how far it can go. See how strong it is. See how supple it is. See how you can improve. And for me, that's kind of what I do now. You know, like I started a new program. I'm pretty happy with where I am. I'm pretty happy with where I will be. And I do this because I like to see myself improve. I like to see progress. I love getting better at something. And I'm not saying getting better as in I look in the mirror and I look slightly more like Henry Cavill or slightly more like Wolverine. For me, that's nowadays, really, that's more of a side effect. Nowadays, I focus on performance. I focus on how it makes me feel, and you know, it just has to be a positive thing. I don't do it anymore. I say anymore because I used to. I don't do it anymore to prove anyone wrong or to show anyone how far I've come or whatever. I do it because this has always been a goal of mine. I have always sought to improve my body and the way I perform. I've always sought to be kind of an athlete. I'm not an athlete right now, but I'm on my way. And this is, you know, just what it makes me happy. And honestly, it's something everybody just has to learn. But I guess the moral of this video is, don't do it for other people. Don't do it to prove anyone wrong. Even though you might start that way, you will always find yourself doing it in an internal way. You know, it's not because you hate your body, it's because you love your body. And you start to do it for yourself. You start to crave progress. You start to crave just seeing yourself improve. And eventually you won't care what people think. You know, like, at least you won't care as much. People, honestly, anytime I'm showing to the world what I can do now, it's just because I'm having fun. I want to show people that it's fun to do this. It's fun for me to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and work out before work, to get that rush of ecstasy for improving myself. And it's really everything. It's something that everyone should experience at least once in their life. So, reason I lived? Because I love myself in every way. Take care, guys.